Football has a way of crowning kings, and for 50 years, there was one kingdom. Everyone else was simply living in. 5 world titles, more than any nation that has ever played the game. The team children pretended to be in the street, the shirt that meant magic, and then the kingdom fell. How does the most successful football nation on Earth go 24 years without lifting the trophy? How do they reach the Final Four only once in 2 decades? This is the story of what went wrong with Brazil. To understand the fall, you have to understand the height, and Brazil climbed higher than anyone.
Brazil become the first team to ever win the World Cup 3 times.
In 1958, a 17-year-old named Pele arrives at a World Cup, and football is never the same again. Brazil win their first title, half a world from home. 4 years later, they do it again. Pele gets hurt early, and a bow-legged genius named Garrincha simply picks up the team and carries it to a second crown. And then came 1970. Most people who study this game will tell you the Brazil side of 1970 is the greatest team ever assembled. Pelé, Jairzinho, Tostão, Gerson, Rivellino. Pelé became, and still remains, the only man to win 3 World Cups. But it was never only about the winning. They gave the world a phrase, jogo bonito, the beautiful game. Brazil didn't just play football, they decided what football was supposed to look like. Joy, improvisation, art with a scoreline. In 1994, in the United States, a 4th star, Romário and Bebeto dragging the nation back to the summit after 24 years of waiting. Remember that number, 24 years. It's going to matter again. And in 2002, the masterpiece, Ronaldo, broken by the nightmare of the '98 final, returns and scores 8 goals, including both in the final. A 5th star, the most World Cups in history. This is the last photograph of Brazil as kings. Everything you are about to see is the fall. At first, nobody panics. Why would they? Brazil is Brazil. 2006, Brazil arrive in Germany with an attack from a video game. Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, Adriano. They called it the Magic Quartet. On paper, unstoppable. On the pitch, they barely flicker. But France and a 34-year-old Zidane knock them out in the quarterfinals. 4 superstars going home early. It was the first warning. 4 of the best players alive. And no team, nobody listened, not yet. 2010, Brazil lead the Netherlands, cruising, in control, and then they unravel. 2 goals conceded, tempers snap, a red card. Out again in the quarterfinals. The flair was still there, but the composure, the discipline, the spine, something had started to rot, and then came the one game no Brazilian will ever forget. 2014, the World Cup comes home, a nation of 200 million, ready to crown a 6th star on its own soil, but their talisman, Neymar, suffers a fractured vertebra in the quarterfinal. Their captain, Thiago Silva, is suspended for the semi, the spine, ripped out in a single week. What came next? 11 minutes, 23 minutes, 24, 26, 29. 5 goals in a single half at a home World Cup, 7-1. It wasn't a defeat, it was a national trauma, a wound that more than a decade later has never fully closed. And the pattern only hardened 2018 out to Belgium in the quarterfinals. 2022, favorites again, beaten by Croatia on penalties. Their coach Tite walks away. 5 World Cups, 1 semi-final, 0 finals. That is not bad luck. That is not one bad night. That is a pattern, and patterns have causes. So what actually happened? How does a dynasty decline? Not all at once. It happens quietly, in 4 ways. For 50 years, Brazil produced genius on a conveyor belt. Pelé, Zico, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, every generation, a new icon you'd pay just to watch. And then, the belt slowed. There was Neymar, genuinely world-class, Brazil's all-time leading scorer, but he became a single point of failure. When Neymar was hurt or marked out of a game, Brazil too often had no other plan, no second answer. For years, the 5-time champions couldn't reliably produce the one thing they'd always taken for granted. A world-beating number 9, a generational match winner, plenty of good players, not enough magic. Here's a number that tells the story. At this very World Cup, out of Brazil's 26 players, only 7 play their club football at home in Brazil. The rest were sold abroad, the majority to Europe, and they were bought younger and younger and younger. Brazil's domestic league stopped being a stage for stars and became a shop window, a place to be discovered and sold before you'd ever truly arrived. The local game lost its glamour, its identity. The very soil that grew the magic was being stripped season after season for export. While Brazil held on to the past, the rest of the world went to work. Germany built a machine. Spain perfected possession. France assembled power, pace, and structure. Modern international football became about systems, pressing, organization, athleticism, tactical discipline. Brazil kept believing that jogo bonito, individual brilliance, improvisation, joy, would always be enough. It used to be enough. It wasn't anymore. They were out-organized, outrun, outthought. The beautiful game had become a comfort blanket, and the world had stopped being impressed. And then there's the part the cameras don't usually show, off the pitch. After 2022, Brazil cycled through manager after manager. No plan, no continuity, no long-term project. Just a desperate search for someone, anyone, to fix it. And above the coaches, chaos. The Brazilian Football Confederation, the CBF, was consumed by governance scandals, court battles, and power struggles. Right at the top, Ancelotti's appointment was finally announced by the CBF in May 2025, just 3 days before their president's removal. The federation meant to be steering the ship was busy fighting over the wheel. By 2025, the decline could no longer be denied, and so Brazil did something it had never done at a World Cup in its history. It handed the most sacred job in its football, the 5-time world champions, to a foreigner. Carlo Ancelotti has won every one of Europe's top 5 leagues, conquered the Champions League more than any manager alive, and now he carries the weight of a nation, trying to end a 24-year wait for a 6th World Cup. Think about what that means. The country that taught the world football decided it could no longer find the answer within itself. That isn't just a hire, it's a confession, and it almost didn't happen at all. The road to this World Cup was a stagger, not a march. In one nightmare in 2025, Brazil were torn apart 4-1 by Argentina, their bitterest rival. Because while Brazil fell, Argentina rose. Argentina are the reigning world champions. Messi got his crowning moment in 2022, the throne of South American football. Brazil's throne, for generations, had been taken. Brazil finally secured their place at the 2026 World Cup on June 10, 2025, grinding out a 1-0 win over Paraguay through a Vinicius Jr. goal. Relief, more than joy. And so we arrive at right now. The 2026 World Cup is here. Brazil opened their campaign on June 13th in New Jersey against Morocco, the surprise semi-finalists of 2022. In a Group C that also features Scotland and Haiti, they arrived ranked 6th in the world, favorites in their group, but no longer the team the world fears above all others. This is a side carrying old ghosts and new hope. Neymar should be back. At 34 years old, one last dance for the talisman who carried them and was failed by them for a decade, but a calf injury keeps him watching, his comeback on hold. Vinicius Jr., the heir, Igor Thiago, the young Brentford striker, Rayon, the Bournemouth teenager, a new generation, asked to do what the last one couldn't, and to do it without him. And here's the strange, beautiful symmetry that history offers. The last time Brazil endured a drought this long, 24 years, the wait that began after 1970, it ended in 1994, with the title won in the United States. 24 years since 1970, 24 years since 2002, and the final of this World Cup will be played in the United States, just like 1994. History is offering Brazil the exact same script. The question is whether this team can write the same ending, because the truth is, Brazil didn't fall because they forgot how to play. They fell because the world changed. The tactics, the money, the academies, the systems. And for 24 years, the kingdom that built the beautiful game refused to believe it had to change too. Now, with a foreign coach, a facing icon, and a generation that has only ever heard about the glory, Brazil have one more chance to remember who they were. The Kings have come back to where they were last crowned. We're about to find out if there's a throne still waiting.